Oi, mate! A bow tie's cool!
Yeah, it's cool. Bow ties are cool.
Alright then. It's not gonna show up on my thing though, because I'm wearing black. I did not plan this out. Hello everyone, I'm Papa Ken, and welcome to episode 48 of Discovering Doctor Who. Yes, fresh off of my little break there, and just so you know, there's going to be a bit of an announcement at the end of this video. Please do stay tuned for that, or skip ahead if you wish to. Anyway, today's episode I'm going to be talking about the 11th Hour, the first official episode with Stephen Moffat at the head of writing and Matt Smith as the Doctor, other than, you know, just the very, very end of the previous episode, obviously. But, gotta love the cats. Anyway, let's get right into the good, or, well, my favorite parts of these videos. Yeah, I apologize. I go back and forth between doing this and the movie reviews, and I mix up my terms a bit. So, my favorite parts of this episode, starting with the intro song. Honestly, it's definitely different than the intro songs that have come before. It has more of a, I don't know if it's sort of a techno feel or what it is exactly, but yeah, it's definitely quite different, and I didn't care for it at first, like when the title sequence first came up, but then, and during the end sequence, when it's playing again during the end credits, I kind of got into it. I have to say, it kind of grew on me a bit in that little amount of time. Now, it definitely, in my opinion, does not compare to, well, especially Season 4's intro song, but, I mean, it's not bad overall. There have been better, in my opinion, but overall it's not bad. It's not something I'm just going to say, oh, that sucks. At least just in my opinion. But moving on, my next favorite part about this episode, number 2, Amy Pond, aka Amelia when she's little. I really enjoyed her as a character, and I venture to say she's kind of about the only, she felt like the only real character in this entire episode other than the Doctor. I'll expand on that a little bit more in a bit, but I mean, she's, even the way they portrayed her as a little kid and when she was an adult, it's like she's very fiery, very, she seems very strong. I don't know, she just has a very strong personality, and I like that about her. And it's something that I'm definitely looking forward to seeing more of her, see how her character might develop as the show goes on. But, you know, just to start off with, I really like her as a companion. She doesn't, for me, she still doesn't compare to Donna Noble, but then again, this is only the first episode with her in it, so, you know, I'm looking forward to seeing what happens from now on. Now, my third favorite part about this episode, the Raggedy Doctor. He's still growing on me. I'm not going to say that I'm completely comfortable with Matt Smith as the Doctor yet, especially with the beginning sequence, which I'll actually touch on in a bit, but especially there near the end, as the episode went on, he started to feel more and more like the Doctor to me. At least, again, it's like, you know, through this journey I've been going, it's like I've experienced Christopher Eccleston's Doctor, I've experienced David Tennant's Doctor, and now Matt Smith is obviously quite different, both in the way, I mean, well, both, but in the way he acts, sort of his inability to stay focused at times, I guess you might say. But yeah, he definitely grew on me, and there were several moments in this episode that honestly felt like the Doctor. They felt like scenes that the other Doctors would have been in as well, which I don't know, for me that just kind of synced in. It's like, you know, okay, so I'm feeling more comfortable with them. Still not completely, still had some issues that I'll touch on in a bit, but overall, I thought Matt Smith did a good job, and I kind of like the nickname, the Raggedy Doctor. Now, the next number 4 favorite part of this episode, the TARDIS's new design, honestly. Now, I'll always have a soft spot for the way the TARDIS looked for those first 4 seasons, because, unless I'm mistaken, it didn't really change much, if at all, throughout that run. But the new design is very, very sparkly, very, very different looking, very new, more, I guess you could say, more sci-fi. It's more something of its own as opposed to something that kind of looked like it came from Farscape, which is, it was always kind of the what I got from the old TARDIS's interior. It reminded me of the show Farscape, or the way that the ship looked in Farscape. And if, for those of you that don't know what Farscape is, it's a great sci-fi show. Go watch it on Netflix. But yeah, I really liked it. So yeah, I will say one slight critique: the engine, the thing that goes up and down. Something about it looks off to me. I don't know if the design's going to change any more as the show goes forward, but I don't know, just something about the way it was designed when it was going up and down looked kind of phallic. It's kind of all I'll say, but yeah, it was weird. But anyway, moving on from that. My 5th and final favorite part about this episode was that there were some legitimately creepy moments. It's a bit of Stephen Moffat's writing showing through, in my opinion, from the other episodes that he's done. When it was the coma patient, the woman with her 2 daughters, I feel like that part right there was really creepy. Both the realization that who this was, and just, I don't know, just something about the way they worked. Like when you see the little girl talking and it's the woman's voice coming out. And otherwise, that was really well done. And also when the multiform, or whatever it's called, Prisoner Zero, when it's talking to the doctor and it's talking about what I assume is going to be future events, things that are going to happen in the future, and something about silence falling. I don't know why, but it's like that, something about that felt really foreboding and really creepy. So I really like the way that was put forth. Even though I would say that the multiform wasn't exactly one of my favorite characters of this episode, the way that those scenes were put forth, in my opinion, just were really well done and pretty well written, in my opinion. Of course, you know, even with good writing, had the performances not done well, it wouldn't have had the same effect. So, you know, take it for what it is. But moving on from there, that is it for my favorite parts about this episode. Now for my annoyances, and admittedly there are a few. The first of which is the food segment at the very beginning. Now it did introduce the fish fingers and custard, which I hear from everyone I see everywhere when it comes to Doctor Who online. But and I did find that little segment funny with the actual fish fingers and custard. But the whole segment leading up to that, where he tries the apples, like, I love apples, and you know, had it just been a couple of foods, it would have been fine. I felt like they went through it. I think they went through 5 different foods, including bacon and baked beans. And it just got to the point of, they were basically just beating a dead horse at that point. It's like, you know, what other food can we make fun of? More filler, please. And I guess it was just kind of one of those parts about this episode, because I think this was an hour-long episode, unless I'm mistaken. And I feel like they didn't need all of that time exactly, and had they taken out some of the really stupid small jokes like that, just the going on and on and on about the food, I feel like it would have been better. But yeah, that was one part, that was part of the episode where I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to tolerate the Doctor, because he was, And I love Goofy. I love goofy moments. I love silly moments, but for the love of God, that was just... It went on too long. But again, this is just the first episode of the new season. First episode with Stephen Moffat writing at the head, so who knows how I'm going to feel about it from here on out. But moving on, number 2 annoyance of the episode is that everyone, because of the stories that Amy told as a child and the things that she told people about the Doctor, everyone immediately, seemingly everyone immediately knows who he is and instantly trusts him. And, I mean, don't get me wrong, there have been times in episodes past where, you know, people seem to, you know, pretty easily trust the Doctor. But unless I'm mistaken, he usually did something to earn that trust, not just being there, not just being part of a kid's story that all of a sudden, this is the Doctor! And it was just, it kind of blew my mind because, you know, there's this guy, I don't know whether he's sort of an ex-boyfriend or a relative of Amy, but the Doctor just barges into his room and takes the computer, and the guy just is kind of like, you know, resists for a second and is like, okay, here you go. Yeah, I don't know, it just, that kind of bugged me, and it's part of what I was saying earlier about how Amy felt like the only real fleshed out character other than the Doctor in this episode. Maybe Rory to a point, but yeah, everyone just felt like they were there. It felt like they were like backup characters, or like, you know, extras to the show, but they were right up there in the camera. I don't know. It just... For some reason, that just really bothered me, and it just kind of made the episode feel off. It was one of the parts of this episode that made it feel off. But moving on, the number 3 annoyance of this episode, the constantly repeating message from the guard, or the alien, the snowflake aliens, whatever they are. Yeah, Now, there have been times in the show where there have been messages repeated over and over and over, and they could get annoying, admittedly, but I feel like this one, kind of like the food joke, went on way too long and was way too fast. So instead of, like for example, Prisoner Zero has escaped. Pause. Prisoner Zero has escaped. Like, having actual pauses, letting there be, like, time to breathe, or allowing my mind to breathe while listening to this. But no, it's just something repeated over and over and over and over, constantly, one after the other, and it really frustrated me. I was just about to start fast-forwarding the episode, but I wanted to make sure I saw everything. So yeah, I mean, I kind of picked a line that the guard says out of thin air there. It's not the exact quote, obviously, but yeah, just that message really got on my nerves. And if I do watch the episode again, I will definitely be fast-forwarding through that section, just so I don't have to be driven crazy by it again. But moving on, the number 4 annoyance with this episode, Amy her job being a kissogram. Now, this annoys me for a few reasons. One, I had never even heard of a kissogram before. There's like singing telegrams, there's stripograms or whatever, but there's stuff like that. But I looked it up online, and a kissogram was apparently something that was popular in the 80s. And literally the only popular culture reference to it that Wikipedia had was this episode. So it feels like, one, it kind of came out of nowhere, but also, of all the jobs that Moffat could have written Amy having over the span of 12 years. Was it 12 years? Yeah, 12 years. kissogram? Really? I mean, okay, Rose was, you know, just a worker in a department store, but it was, you know, it was a job. It was a regular job, and then Donna was a temp, and but in the end, well, maybe not so much Rose, but to a point, some of the and Martha, she was a doctor. She was in training to be a doctor, but in some way, each of those professions that those different companions had added something to their characters. It had something to do with their background. Kissogram just kind of comes out of nowhere, in my opinion. And if it does have some sort of tie-in in the future, I mean, you know, don't tell me, because that would be a spoiler, obviously, but I don't know. It just feels like her having the job of a kissogram is completely irrelevant to anything and kind of sexist in a way. Just to have that be her job all of a sudden. I mean, I don't know, maybe it could have been, had she been a singing telegram. I mean, they also dress up in outfits, unless I'm mistaken. It could have been anything else, but a kissogram? Really? I don't know, it's, that part probably bothered me more than it should, but it's, again, it's one of my annoyances, one of the parts about this episode that bothered me. Now, my fifth and final annoyance with this episode, the death of the Blue Sonic. Now, and it's not so much that the Blue Sonic died, because I understand that they want to do something new. They want to bring in the design of the new one, which I'll admit, the design of the new one does look pretty cool. But the scene that revolved around it, when the Doctor has the sonic screwdriver pointed to the sky, and stuff is exploding all around, and the snowflake ship, or whatever it is, with the eyeball is just off in the distance, but it apparently never notices any of that going on, and it never notices the alien technology going off that entire time. But as soon as the multiform gets tricked into going back to its original form, the thing almost automatically detects it. I don't know, I mean, I can see a way that that could be explained, but it's just really annoying. I feel like, I don't know, had the sonic screwdriver, you know, had he been doing it and then all of a sudden the multiform threw something at it or did something to destroy it, that would have made more sense. But for it to just, you know, be going off and all of a sudden it fries out seems like just really bad writing, in my opinion. But yeah, and honestly, there are more annoyances for this episode, but I feel like they're just kind of more general aspects. And what it really boils down to, I guess you could call this my sixth annoyance, the episode just felt off. I guess I'm kind of delving in on final thought territories there. So, moving on, let's get into my favorite quote of the episode, and it's a very simple one, and probably one that a lot of you are expecting. But it's honestly probably one of the only lines from this episode that really stuck out to me. And it's the line when the Doctor is introducing himself and putting on his new outfit, introducing himself to this alien species, talking about the Earth, and the very last line he says to it is, "Hello, I'm the Doctor. Basically, run." Now that was a really good moment. That was one of those scenes, like I was saying before, where the Doctor felt like the Doctor. Where it felt like a line that could have been delivered by Tennant, could have been delivered by Eccleston, and it was a moment where all of those Doctors kind of came into one, and it felt like, and I felt that connection with Matt Smith starting to grow for me. And there's still a way to go, obviously, but that was one of those moments that just really worked for me, and that's the reason why that line in particular stuck out for me. Now, moving on to my final thoughts. Despite the things that I did like about it, I feel like this episode was maybe average at best. Really, that's probably about the best I can put it. It's definitely better than the first episode that introduced Eccleston, which was the first episode of the new series. or the new show. But it wasn't that great otherwise. Again, despite the positives that I felt about it, there was a lot about it that really worked against it, and most of all, it was just that the episode really felt off. It felt like... It just felt sloppy, I guess you could say. Which kind of goes along with, you know, all these different characters being there at the forefront, but you don't really know anything about them, and they seem kind of shallow. They're just kind of there to be like, oh, you're the Doctor! I hope that they come in later and that they play some sort of role so there can be a type of development for those characters, but yeah, so far it's just not doing it for me. Thankfully, again, it did bring Amy into the fold, which I find her to be a fun character. I know that Rory plays a part in the rest of the series, or the rest of the show, and he's going to become a bigger character, but, you know, this... Had I not known that and just seen this episode, I'd be like, okay, so he's her boyfriend. Not much else about him. Kind of like Mickey at first. So I can only expect that Rory's going to go possibly through a similar transformation that Mickey did, where he's going to become more and more important as the show goes on. I'm looking forward to it at the very least. But yeah, overall, just average at best. Yeah. I don't know, I was hoping to feel more enthusiastic about it, but I just can't. That's really the best I can say about it, is that it was average. It wasn't bad, it wasn't horrible, despite some pretty bad moments from time to time, some really bad jokes, or the occasional questionable acting. But, yeah, that's what it just boils down to for like the 4th time I've said this. Average episode at best. Now, moving on from there, I do have a question for you all, and actually technically 2 questions, as I had mentioned before. I have a question for you all. But to start off with, my question for you all, in addition to letting me know what your favorite quote of the episode was, what some of your favorite scenes from the episode were, just like, you know, letting me know what you enjoyed or hated about this episode in particular. My question is this: what do I have to look forward to? Because whereas previous episodes, even if they weren't that great, they did leave me feeling like I want to see what happens next. This episode, it kind of left me with a similar feeling to maybe the first time I saw the first episode of the new Doctor Who, which was, I mean, it was okay, but I don't really feel any drive to just go on to the next episode, which I haven't felt that in a while, and that's really unfortunate. I'm going to keep going, obviously, but it didn't give me that feeling to keep going on. So yeah, let me know what I have to look forward to without, you know, and I know that can be difficult to say without going into spoiler territory, but, you know, if at all possible, let me know what I have to look forward to, or I guess maybe kind of motivate me to feel better about this, despite some of the negatives that I feel about this. Moving on, my next question before closing this episode is this. Would you all be okay with me possibly changing the format temporarily for this show? And my reason for asking that is this. The camera that I'm recording on right now, its battery is almost dead. In fact, it has 10 minutes of battery left while I'm recording. And it would have more than that, however, its charger has somehow broken. So I don't know whether I'm going to be able to find a new charger, or if I'm going to have to end up getting a new camera, which I hope not, because even though this one was only $300, it's still quite a bit of money. So yeah, just in case, I might possibly have to record with this temporarily. Hopefully it won't come to that, but yeah, if I needed to do that, would you all be okay with me doing that? Maybe for an episode or two. Now, just to give myself some leeway, this is going to be the only episode that comes out this week. I've already recorded a new episode of Papa Kenn's Sweet Tooth, which will be coming out either Wednesday or Thursday. But yeah, I'm putting that out there. Let me know what you all think. If you would be okay with that, alright. Or I might have to, if you would prefer to not have to put up with possibly shaky camera phone, let me know and I will do my best to get this fixed as quickly as possible, but no Discovering Doctor Who episodes until then. So yeah, just let me know what you think. Anyway, everyone, moving on. Thank you again for joining me for this brand new episode of Discovering Doctor Who. I'm going to be getting into the next episode soon, but I don't know. Again, it's just I feel strange that I don't have that urge to just, you know, go right on to the next episode like I have before. Maybe it's just growing pains with the new Doctor or with the new writing, but I'm sure I'll grow used to it eventually. But until then, the next episode is going to be about The Beast Below, which as soon as I saw that title, it kind of reminded me of an older episode, like possibly from the 3rd season, or was it the 2nd season? One of those seasons. Anyway, hey everyone, thank you again for listening to me ramble, and until next time, I'm Papa Kenn, and I'll see you on the next Discovering Doctor Who. Geronimo! That just doesn't feel right. I'm going to stick with the old one. Alonzi!